So let's talk about proper use of ladders and ladder safety.
Well, I think it's a great idea and it's an important topic. A lot of people think that on job sites accidents happen by power tools or nail guns. There's actually more people hurt on a job site using a ladder improperly or the wrong kind of ladder than any other tool.
And the statistics bear it out. I've read that over 150,000 people end up in the emergency room every year from a ladder accident with cuts and scrapes and broken bones, and unfortunately several hundred people never even make it to the emergency room. They end up dying from a ladder accident.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
So I guess when it comes to talking about ladders, the first thing we should think about is materials, because there are a few choices. You've got the tried and true wood ladder.
Right. And they have a fiberglass ladder right here. Now these two ladders you're going to see an electrician use more often than any because they don't conduct electricity.
Right.
All right. Now if he's up there putting an electrical fixture up and who knows, it may be on. He could get a shock running down. This will lessen that chance.
Sure.
Or using a power tool up there with a bad cord. You can get a shock if it's not grounded correctly.
Right. If you're not working around any electricity, aluminum ladder is a good choice. These tend to be lighter and sometimes less expensive than the fiberglass.
Yes.
So it's an easy ladder to sort of work around.
Most homeowners buy these, but I say I have a lot of aluminum ladders myself.
But if you're around electricity, it should be fiberglass or wood.
Absolutely.
The other thing to think about is how much weight can the ladder hold, and it's not really the material that determines that. A fiberglass ladder doesn't always carry more weight than an aluminum ladder. They are clearly labeled.
Right, and there's about 4 or 5 different ratings, and it's right on the side of the ladder.
Yep, I've got one right here, and this says type 1A up to 300 pounds capacity.
Okay, now here's an aluminum ladder. This is a type 1. This will up to 250 pounds of capacity. Right. Now, it's not just you going up the ladder, like, for example, me climbing up this ladder. This will carry me with no problem.
Yeah, 250, 300 pounds, that's a lot of weight.
Right, but think about what I do during the day. I carry stuff. I have a tool belt. Lots of times my tool belt is heavy, and I'm going to go up that ladder. I remember when I was a kid, I remember there was a guy doing a job next door, and his son was working with him, and his son was carrying 2 bundles of shingles up the ladder.
Right.
Well, one trip, he put 2 bundles on his shoulder, stepped on the bottom rung. It was an old wooden ladder. That rung broke as he started to go up.
Lucky it broke down here as opposed to up much higher.
Absolutely, he would have been in the emergency room.
Yeah, all right, so weight's important. Now, regardless of the material or the weight rating of the ladder you're using, there are a couple things you want to think about. And the first one's probably storage. If you can, store it inside. You want to keep it out of the elements because Mother Nature can beat up on all of these materials.
Right, and even if you store it properly, there are a couple of things you want to look at. You always want to inspect the ladder before you use it. Now, if it's a wooden ladder, for example, you want to check that there's no broken or cracked rungs. You want to make sure there's no damaged legs or any rot. If it's loose, throw it away. On a fiberglass ladder, you want to look for any frayed fiberglass, any cracks in the side, any holes, any damaged rungs. On an aluminum ladder, you want to make sure that this ladder hasn't been knocked over, fallen off a truck, windy conditions, if the ladder has blown down and it hit something, if these rails are bent at all or creased at all, it's weakened.
Right, if they're not in good shape, replace it.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about form that goes for any ladder. The first one is the center of gravity. You always want to keep it centered right on the ladder. Right. You want to make sure that you don't overextend in either direction. And there's this idea of 3 points of contact. You always want to have 3 points of contact, which means 2 feet and 1 hand, or 2 hands and 1 foot as you travel up and down the ladder.
Right. Now, whenever I'm using the ladder, I always like to have my tool belt on, because if I'm going to carry something up or down the ladder, I need a tool, I put it in my tool belt. That way I can maintain my 3 points of contact.
Now, there are some things to think about specifically with step ladders and how to actually use these guys.
Right, remember, a step ladder is meant to be opened when used.
Which means you don't push it up and lean it up against the wall when you're using it like this.
Right.
Make sure that it is open and the spreaders are actually locked down.
Right, and with this step ladder, you don't want to be higher than this rung right here. This is your workbench.
Right, there are a couple places they don't want you to step. They don't want you to step here, they don't want you to step here, they don't want you to step on the paint tray.
Right, and definitely back, not here on these narrow rungs.
Or on these spreaders right here.
Right.
All right, extension ladders?
Yeah, let's get to it.
We've got 2 set up right here.
Right, now extension ladders either have 2 sections, or if they're really big, 3 sections. Let's start back here with this back section that goes to the ground.
Yep.
Now the outer section is the moving section on this ladder. That gives us a different height. When you slide it up, you drop it down, these rung locks lock it into position.
Sure. And because they have 2 or 3 sections, they're heavy and they can actually be unwieldy, a little difficult to work with, especially if you're working by yourself.
Right, so whenever you have 2 people working the ladder together, it's always good to have the one person at the bottom. And if you take your feet and you put it on top of the, that's right, at the bottom rail like that, I push it up, and that keeps the bottom of the ladder from walking away from me and sliding out.
And that's pretty manageable, but a lot of times you're trying to muscle this thing in and out all by yourself.
Right, so when working alone, take the ladder and place it against the foundation, hold it into position. And now when I push it up, the bottom of the ladder has no place to go because it's locked against the foundation.
Push it up rung by rung until you get it standing straight up.
Now push it up. First thing you want to do is take a break. Make sure that the ladder is tight against the house. Pick the bottom up, walk it out slowly, placing it at the proper angle. Now the proper angle should be about 75 degrees, but who carries a protractor with them? All right, well the ratio in footage is 4 feet up, 1 foot out.
So on this ladder, it's 32 feet long. It's 16 feet unextended, which means we want about 4 feet away from the building.
So that's our proper angle right there. So every 4 more feet we raise the ladder, it's 1 more foot out.
Sure. Another way that you can actually check to see if the angle is proper is put your feet at the base of the ladder, stand up straight, and then the rung right in front of you, you should be able to put your palms on it comfortably, nice and level, and you'll know you're to the right angle.
Nice, comfortable angle.
Another thing to think about are the feet that come with most extension ladders. These will actually sit flat on a hard surface, but if you're on a soft surface like this, they'll flip forward and you can actually stick those into the ground.
And they dig in so the ladder won't slide away.
Yeah, and this one actually has a very nice feature right here, these levelers.
Yeah, these levelers are for any uneven surfaces. These move up and down because you want to make sure that the ladder is plumb left or right when you're looking at it.
Right. All right, well, let's talk about extending the ladder.
Okay, now because I'm going to move the ladder up a little, I'm going to move it out a little. So the first thing I want to do is push it away from the building, keep one hand high, grab it, move it out a little, just like that, positioning it and balancing it. So now I'm going to stand on the side. First thing I'm going to do is grab the rope, put my hand around it. I'm going to grab the rung and I'm just going to push it up 2 rungs.
And you want to make sure that both of these rung locks are engaged.
Exactly. Now if I wanted to go up higher, I would stand behind the ladder like this, brace it, put my foot on the bottom, reach up high, and pull hard on the rope to bring it up a few more rungs.
Okay. Now let's bring it down a little bit because we don't need to go up that high. Set it right about there. Both of those are engaged.
Now let it rest against the building.
And with that secure, we can go up.
Okay.
My ladder has this nice feature on top, this stabilizer, or sometimes they call it a standoff.
Yeah, I love these things. They have these rubber feet right here that go against the building to protect it, but it really adds a lot of stability to the top of the ladder where it meets the wall, and it also allows the ladder to come away from the building a little bit for working.
Yeah, I mean, and it can actually help you work a lot. Imagine if there were a window right here. Well, you couldn't put the ladder up against that top glass pane, so you'd have to put the ladder to the left or to the right and then work off the side. But with this, you can span the entire window and get right in there and work.
You're right.
You also don't want to push your ladder up against, say, your aluminum gutters. It might dent them. So this allows you to put it just underneath that roof overhang, setting it off, or even up on that first or second row of shingles so that you don't crush the gutter.
Yeah.
It's a nice feature.
They're great. Now there's one more ladder that we didn't talk about. It's this one right here. It's an articulating ladder. Very handy. Right here on the side, it tells you what this ladder can be used for. Right here is a step ladder, a ladder for uneven surfaces like a stairway, an extension ladder, or you can break it apart and use a plank between it for a couple of trestle ladders. All right, it starts right here with this system right here. It's a hinge that locks. It allows you to extend the ladder to a straight position or fold it up.
Right.
You want to change the height of the ladder, you simply pull these out. You slide the ladder up on one side, then do the other side, and go up wherever you want.
That's the configuration you might use for stairs, and you just have to make sure that these locks are all properly seated before you actually climb on the ladder.
Absolutely.
And I guess most importantly, you want to make sure that you stick to the configurations on the diagram. Don't go making up your own crazy
you don't want to make up your own stuff.
So lots of ladders, different materials, and lots of things to think about in terms of safety. But I guess if there were one rule to take away, it's that if you don't feel comfortable working with the ladder or being on the ladder, you probably should just stay off of it.
It's a good way to stay out of the emergency room.
A real good way.